How much is the average home in Ontario expected to cost in 2025? Well, the new report that came out a few weeks ago from CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association, breaks down where they predict housing prices will be across Canada in 2025. Let's go through the article and some of the other articles that have come out in the last 6 weeks or so. I'm Mike Ouzas. I'm a realtor here in Toronto, and although we will be discussing the Canadian Real Estate Association's predictions, we will also talk about the Toronto market and what we've been seeing on the ground level. If you ever want to discuss what's been happening in your specific pocket and your property type, you can click on a first link in the description down below. Every year, in fact, every quarter, we receive various forecasts from all the big real estate companies across Canada. LePage, my parent company, they come out with a quarterly forecast, and the Canadian Real Estate Association also puts out their own forecast as well. Before we jump into the numbers of where forecasts will be, let's talk a little bit about this forecasting and why it's tough to determine where things will go into the fall market. Let's start out here on BlogTO, and this says, here's how much the average home in Ontario is expected to cost in 2025. They use the LePage forecast. This came out back in July, and they were also reflecting to risk year of Canadian Real Estate Association, that's CREA, which dropped its own forecast for each province and the country at large, looking further ahead to 2025. It says, based on this year's trend so far, impending interest rate cuts, we've already had one in June and one in July. The trade group is calling for the cost of a typical home to increase in every single province next year by as little as 2% in PEI to 7.9% in Alberta. This is the chart from the Canadian Real Estate Association's website. You can go find this very readily available just by typing in CREA quarterly forecast. They're saying as a whole in Canada, the average sale price in 2023 was $677,000, just over 300, which is an annual percent change of negative 3.6%. They're predicting that in 2024, by the end of this year, prices will be up 2.5% across all of Canada, up to about $694,000. They are predicting a 5% annual percentage change across the board in Canada, which would bring pricing up to about $729,000. I am curious where they got this 5% change and whether or not they took all these numbers and divided it by the number of provinces here on the chart. And taking a look at British Columbia, they're predicting from $1,010,000, a 4.4% annual increase from last year, and going up just under 4% to about $1,050,000 in 2025. If you take a look at Ontario, $870,000 for the average price 2023, which is down 6.3% compared to where it was the year before. And then $876,000, which is basically just a bit less than 1% ahead of 2023. And then about a 4% increase into 2025. Now keep in mind, these are predictions. And anytime they're predictions, it's really difficult to say where this data is coming from and what it's based on. I know there's a lot of factors that are happening right now in the market, interest rates being one of the most prominent ones. And especially as rates come down, typically people's buying powers get a little higher. And jumping over to the Canadian Real Estate Association's article, is also talking about sales, which in 2023, you could see that it's one of the lowest amount of sales since back in 2008, Canada-wide. In 2024, if it does finish here where it is on the chart, that would also put it as one of the lowest sales years across the board. And then 2025, even though it's a rise from 2023 and 2024, it looks like sales will kind of come in and around the average of where things should be, give or take, if we look at the trend line across the board. LePage, my parent company, also came out with this article back in July that says the spring market that never was. Canadian real estate remains in a prolonged catch-up period as buyers idle on the sidelines. Second quarter highlights, and we'll just go through the highlights here. You can take a look at this article on the LePage website. National aggregate home price rose 1.9% year over year in Q2 of 2024, up about 1.5% over Q1. Toronto and Vancouver report slower than usual market activity this spring as inventory built, while demand continues to outpace supply in Prairie provinces and Quebec. Quebec City records the highest year-over-year aggregate price increase, 10.4% in Q2 among the report's major regions. And LePage maintains their national year-end forecast with prices expected to increase about 9% through Q4 of 2024 over the same period of last year. And if you did need a refresher on LePage's 2024 market survey forecast, in Q4 2023, the aggregate home price, which was actual dollars, nationally $789,500. Greater Toronto, $1,123,300. Greater Toronto area has been trending around that $1.1 million mark. Even with the highs and lows, that's kind of where the balance seems to be on an average sale price across the city, in factoring in all property types. Greater Vancouver at just over $1.2 million. They are predicting that in Q4 of 2024, the average price in the Greater Toronto area will surpass $1.235 million, which is a 10% increase over Q4 of 2023. Now, right off the bat, I think think that's a pretty ambitious number to get to that 10% year over year increase. In general, the Greater Toronto Area has performed at about a 6.8% increase year over year for the last 40 or so years. In fact, to get over the 1-2 mark, we will need to see a lot of the higher end inventory start to sell and a lot of the lower end inventory going for better pricing. As right now, we've been in a balanced market and there is a significant amount of properties on the market compared to where things were even a year ago today. There you have it, the Q2 forecasts across the board for Canada and also in the Greater Toronto Area. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on if you think we'll hit that 10% year over year increase here in the Greater Toronto Area. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.